Hi, hola, bienvenidos, welcome to Seen and Heard. I'm Melia Bensussen, Artistic Director. This is our third episode of Seen and Heard this season, our 60th anniversary season, but it's really cool, it's really different. We're not in our Zoom squares anymore. We have decided to just be free and be together in space as we love to do in our work, right? The Zoom was very much left over from our COVID times, and we're grateful to be in person, healthy, and rehearsing together. I'm here with this extraordinary cast to talk to you about Simona's Search, our third production in this, did I mention, our 60th anniversary season. It's a world premiere by Martín Zimmerman. We have a great video with Martín also on our website, so we hope you'll find that. But now I get to introduce you to three extraordinary actors, and the four of us will talk a little bit about Simona's Search, which I have the great good fortune to be directing. So I'm going to turn it, we're very talk show format now, as opposed to our previous Zoom life, but it's really great to welcome all three of you to Hartford Stage and to our Seen and Heard program. This is Alejandra Escalante, who plays Simona, and Rodrigo, who plays Papi, and Chris Bannow, who plays, well, Christopher, perdón.
Thank you.
Yeah, Christopher Bannow.
I was like,
yeah, I know, here we go. Who plays Jake. Everyone plays, except Alejandro really only plays Simona. The two gentlemen in our cast play a number of roles. I'm not going to talk too much about that, spoiler alert. So say that basically Papi is Simona's father, and Chris is Jake, Simona's partner for part of her journey. And I'll just say a little bit about why Simona's Search, and then I'm going to hand it to the three of you. And I first read this play when I first became artistic director here, so that was like fall of 2019, and thought what a great fit it would be for this community and this theater. We programmed it originally for our 2021 season, and then we canceled the 2021 season, you all remember that. And so we did it in spring of 21. Some of you may have seen it as part of our Latine Play Festival online, where we did a workshop of this with Alejandra and Simona, and Martín working with us. So I've had a few years, you've had a few years to think about this play as well, and I just couldn't be more excited to be bringing it to all of you, to the audiences in this region. So enough of me. One of you gets to say, what is Simona's Search about? A really hard question to answer, but who wants to, we can all jump in and sort of talk about all the, it's about many things, but, so Al, if I asked you to tell us the story of Simona's Search, what would you say it is?
Well, I'm thrilled to be a part of the group, part of the cast. It's a wonderful experience to work on this play, and I think, you know, for me, the play is really about a young girl's search for her truth, for the truth of who she is in her relationship with her father and who she is in the world based on what she's dealt with growing up in that relationship with her father. And the relationship is quite complex in that the father has had a difficult past growing up, complications of trauma and etc.
Yeah.
And they've impacted her. And so the play deals with her journey, understanding what that is and how she grows up with that relationship and then ultimately moves on to find herself in the world.
It's funny because I feel like every day it's about something a little different, depending on a few things, but maybe sometimes just depending on how I walk into the room. But there's this kind of brilliant father-daughter story. There's a story about what it means to be Latino, Latina, Latine. There's a story about what it is to find first love and what that means for your future. And there's this whole, like, does the past affect your future, or
Right.
or can you find yourself completely independent of your past?
And it is, I mean, I sort of throw out, totally agree with everything. It's a memory play, which is interesting, right? We're sort of hearing about Simona's search, the search she's been on, And one of the things we're wrestling is where we find her in that search and where the present moment is. But it's a little bit every individual's quest to figure out what they've inherited genetically, who they actually are in the world that way, just in terms of what, as you say at one point in the play, it's like inheriting brown eyes or, a tendency towards glaucoma or whatever. That what has she inherited from Papi that is changing who she is in the world that she's not even aware of. Love, this whole sense of the discoveries and the cumulative effect of the play. Our design elements are really going to help with that, right? It's hard to see from these boards, but we'll have more info online for people to see design elements. But we're going to have projections because it really is a memory play. So how we remember things and how memory distorts, there's a sort of element of this, of nightmares, of how we inherit memories, or do we? Or do we absorb them from how we're raised? And so the projections and the design elements are really going to help in the storytelling. It's a kind of detective story almost. I mean, if I'm piecing together what you're all saying, a little bit of what Simona is searching for and what she finds in each of her discoveries, whether they be her emotional responses to things or actual facts that she gets, as she drills deeper into what she intuits is going on, right?
Yeah, and to try to use a science brain to intuit, to use like, what is intuition, what is emotion, what is really interesting, because it's like trying to use both sides of your brain at the same time.
That's really cool, right? There's a lot of science in this play.
Yeah.
So what does it feel like? Are you guys, what's it like to do a play with so much science? It's both literal and metaphorical within the play, right? And just, no worries. You don't need to know anything about science to understand this play. Just to say, none of us have, I did park my PhD in molecular biology.
Well,
Right.
right.
You all are aware of it, of course.
Well,
right?
You keep telling us.
I
will
keep
say-
telling you about my PhD
brought it
in
up
molecular
again.
biology.
I will say it's very, very interesting and fun and challenging all at the same time to be playing a man who is fascinated by science, who isn't particularly, he doesn't have a higher education.
Right.
But he's fascinated by it. It gives him a sense of an outlet, it's a passion, and he shares that with his daughter. And it's wonderful to see that through a Latin experience.
Yeah.
Which makes the play even that much more compelling and interesting, because a playwright has now taken the liberty of using a Latin story and with science and
that's
telling
right.
something that isn't really typically done. I don't think it's ever been done. To explore a Latin family and that journey, which as a Latin actor, I find it really wonderful that a playwright has done that in this day and age, because so often we experience Latin plays and they're, not to say they're all the same, but there are a lot of common themes in a lot of Latin plays that we know. And this is a unique individual play that happens to be about a Latin family.
Right.
So,
That's a great
I
way.
appreciate that, yeah.
And we all see ourselves in it, right? Whatever
Yes.
your background is, I
Yes.
think you really connect with this notion of not quite knowing where you come from. I'm thinking
Yeah.
of all the, the fascination with 23andMe and all
Yeah,
these
yeah.
other, I'm going to
Yeah.
find my genealogy. This isn't quite that, right? Because it's not a questioning, but it
it's in
is.
there,
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's what is in my genes.
Yes.
Exactly.
And what is the history of my family that is
Will that
making
help
who I am?
me become a better person,
Right.
or will that help me heal, or?
Right.
And 23andMe has gone really, really, down that path of letting you know what traits your genetic code has, what
I didn't know
smells.
that. Does it really?
Yeah,
not
yeah.
to go down a whole 23.
Yeah,
but it gets
but
pretty
now
intense.
they're really like exploring all of the common traits that you share with your family tree.
So this is
So
very
there
much
is a
what we're.
similar, there's a similar.
And then the question becomes, is a traumatic event or someone's traumatic memory
Yeah.
then inherited? Which is
Yeah.
one of the questions that we wrestle
Yeah.
with. We're week 3. I always love sharing where we are. All right, so we're really, it's, what day is it? It's Thursday.
Yes.
We're in the middle of our 3rd week in the rehearsal room. what does that mean to each of you in terms of process? You know, I like to share this always to say how extraordinary it is that it's just 2.5 weeks of people working together. Normally I say, and none of these people knew each other, but just to go on a quick tangent and say there are some fun facts to be known here, one of which I did not know at all.
Right.
Mhm.
When I offered Chris the role, who was one of the first people Chris called.
I called Ollie because I had done research on the play and saw that it was part of the festival in 21 or 22, and I saw that she played Simona, and so I was like, hey,
Because how do you know each other?
sorry. So
I'm leading you on.
they-
I'm
I
feeding
understand.
you.
They don't know.
They
They
do.
don't know.
Not
They-
everyone knows.
Oh,
that
sorry.
we're in
I
school together.
texted Alejandra because we spent 4 years together at Boston University being BFA acting students
A long time ago.
a long time ago.
Not
that long.
so
that long ago.
Not
Sorry,
that
you're
long.
right.
Not
She's
that
only
long.
20,
Only 20-ish, 30-ish,
Yeah.
something.
Right.
So
Right.
So Alejandra then wrote me saying, hey, so are you casting Chris? Because I've known him since he was 18. So there's that fun.
yes.
And then Al and I go back, we
Few
worked
years.
together 30 years ago. We did a production in New York. We knew
Yes.
each other before then.
Yeah.
A production at the
Truly
Public
one of
Theater.
the highlights of my
Wow.
journey as an actor working with Melia. So
Yeah,
very
we
excited
had a
to be
wonderful
here.
time
Yeah.
at the Public Theater
Yeah.
in New York.
Yeah.
So so we had some connections,
Mhm.
but you two hadn't acted together since you were in college,
Right.
Yes.
correct? And Al and I had not been in the same room together in the last over 20-some years,
Yeah, a long
probably close
time.
to 30.
Long-
Week 3, what are we up to? What does it feel like to be in the rehearsal room right now?
It's interesting because after rehearsal today, I pointed out to you, I said, with this particular production, given that there's so much movement and choreography as well, and is that there's a lot to learn. It's its own script.
I
It
was
really
gonna
is.
thank you for saying
It's
that,
its own
yeah.
script along with the written words, because there's so much.
They're
and
in
so it's-
constant motion,
yeah.
these 3 people,
Yeah,
and
balance.
there's a lot of choreography, not in terms of just like straightforward dance. We have a little dance. We might even have a little tap, but you'll have to come see that. A little disco, I don't know. Little moments here and there. It's a very joyful production, actually, even the subject matter. But all 3 of you are choreographed physically every minute. You're
Mhm.
in motion in this wonderful thrust theater, so the audiences will be privy to a lot
Yeah.
of movement.
Mhm.
Yes. We're on stage a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially our leading lady.
it's 90 minutes. It's like, you were saying today, Al, once the play starts, it feels like it just
Yeah.
goes.
It goes,
It's
yeah.
like a 90-minute.
And I believe it has to go. It has to. With this story, it just kind of has to move
Right.
because it's her
Search.
memory and it's her search, and it's almost like it's like this this story that just it has a start and a finish, and it has to just keep going until the story's told.
There's a nature-nurture question,
Yeah.
I think, at the core to add to what you are
Mhm.
both saying. But Chris, what
No,
what do you think
You
it's
got- we
about?
got it all?
I sort of love getting everyone's
Yeah,
take.
well, I can't say anything better than those things. But I'll add this, and this is not plot, it's not about the plot of this
Uh-huh.
play at all, but the play does feel a bit to me like if you give a mouse a cookie, where these things happen, and before you kind of
Yeah, I could very easily feel like in a state of drowning right now because it is a lot, but I don't because the room is very comfortable and wonderful and like just ready to go every day. But it's also like, it's such a different play. I usually walk away going like, okay, I really need to work on that scene, and there's that
Yes.
moment where this is more like, how do I go from A to B to C to D? So there's only so much that's within my control, you know what I mean? Like I can't walk in every day going, what I need to work on and make sure that I get to, it's kind of always
It's-
in flux.
It
Yeah.
is in flux.
And
I
it
would
still
say
is, your
it-
direction is in flux, this,
Yeah.
the thing is still in, it's moving and
And
it's.
designers are so important in this production.
Mhm.
Projections and music,
Mhm.
and lighting in particular, those three elements, so that we've been talking about how design is another character. Because of visions and dreams and memories and how much we can transform the space thanks to
Mhm.
projection work.
Yeah.
So.
Personally, and this is true of, I think, a lot of processes, but I like to find like the gutters, like where the bowling ball leaves the play and doesn't go, so that I know what the parameters
Yes.
are of what the play is. And so so I got a note today from Melia being like, that was too much, and I'm like, oh good, okay, so that's a gutter.
Yeah.
Like I know
Yeah,
that
that's really.
I know that that's the limit, and so I think as a play goes in, I do like to set those things up so I know what space I have to play in, or I know how wide the lane is, where I'm still telling the story. I'm telling the story that is all agreed upon, but
Mhm.
I have room
Within it.
Within it.
Yeah.
I love that description of great acting, actually, because I feel like that is, and all three of you are really doing that. It's like, okay, and we're creating together, here's the blueprint, here are the boundaries for these
Mhm.
spaces, for these scenes. But you're right, I have the same thing as I'm taking notes, as I watch this play, it's like normally I'd be like, okay, we really need to work this scene, because, and I'm thinking, we were talking about Cherry Orchard before, so, I'm thinking, if this were Cherry Orchard, how would I work this Chekhov scene? No, let's just look at these 20 pages.
And
And
even
and
if you
how
say,
do we
like,
get in?
oh, those 20 pages, you're like, well, we should probably look at the 7 pages before that.
Yes.
And then after that, we should probably also look at the 7 pages after
We've
that, 'cause
already
it's just
run it
all-
together twice, we've done 2 run-throughs, which, given how little time we've had, is a lot, but there's no other way to figure out where you're gonna be.
Yeah.
So you are in for a treat, because it's constantly moving and shifting.
Mhm. Yes.
It feels relevant to me right now, I will say. I know I programmed it, for this season that didn't happen, but I'm really happy it's right now.
Mhm.
And maybe it's in part, just more and more conversations around nature versus nurture and genetics, but also another thread for me that I'm really hearing, or another voice, a theme in it that I'm really hearing, is the language around you, when you're in college, trying to connect to a culture as a first generation immigrant, right? I mean, right, you're first generation because you're the immigrant,
Mhm.
and you're completely American.
Yeah.
And your father has not taught you any of that culture that he comes from. And we never quite say where Papi's from.
Mhm.
He's Latin American, we're pretty sure,
Mhm.
but it's not specified intentionally by Martín. And I was really moved by that speech today as you were working through it,
Mhm.
of what it means to really not know your family's language of your parents' language of origin, or the history. And I feel like that really resonates right now
Mhm.
with so many people exploring their identities, and then what makes you something.
Yeah.
Is it the genes, is it the culture? I don't know, that really stuck out as part of the story to me today.
And then there's the component of why the father didn't want to teach his daughter the language.
And so
What-
many parents
What-
don't, even without the trauma.
What is that about? Is he embarrassed? Is he just wants to push it away? He doesn't want to connect at all with where he comes from, and yet that's so much a part of who he is.
And you see that in so many
Yeah.
cultures, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
all the cultures that have
Yeah.
formed this region,
Yeah.
and you have families from
Mhm.
French Canada, you have
Right.
German families, Polish Jews who came, who the
Mhm.
kids don't speak Yiddish, and so many
Yeah.
Latine families where the parents speak Spanish or the grandparents speak Spanish, but the kids are American and
Mhm.
have, as you say you have that great line, I speak English,
Yeah.
I speak
Yeah.
English.
You don't need to speak Spanish to speak to me. It's inefficient.
It's inefficient, I love that.
It's inefficient.
Don't learn
Inefficient.
Spanish.
Yeah.
Talk
Don't
about
learn
it.
Spanish for
It's
that.
inefficient. Yeah.
Well, he's maximizing.
And he doesn't have any family around, so he
So
doesn't
why
have
would you,
to.
why
do you need to speak Spanish?
why are you curious to do it?
Right.
I think there's so many different cultures where that's the case.
Yeah.
Well, and that's, I mean, an immigrant story, right? It's like, well, I came here for you,
Mhm.
kid. I want you to do better than I ever could.
Right.
Yes.
And then there's the immense pressure on the kid to do much better than their
Which
parents
she
ever
really
could.
feels, which she
You know?
does. That is part of
Yeah.
what she's
Yeah.
battling.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, there's so much humor in the play.
Mhm.
And I don't know how much this is connected to how much TV Martin has
Mhm.
written. I know that I binge watched all of Ozark.
Mhm.
And it wasn't just, I mean,
I
I
did
actually
I did as well.
binge watched, not something I often do, but all of Ozark before I met Martin.
Mhm.
And so then when I got this play, and I was like, wait, he's one of the writers of Ozark? That's so cool. I got all, what is it, fangirl about.
You fangirled.
Fangirled.
What a great series.
Because it was so great, but I feel like in that same way that was a dark subject, but there would be these moments
Yeah.
of tremendous wit. He captures that for
Yes.
us in this, I
Very
think, too, as
smart.
well. We really want you to come see this. It's going to be such a ride, such an adventure. These wonderful actors. None of you have been. Wait, you were at Hartford Stage before.
Yes, yeah, in the 80s. Yes, I was in a production of Pericles directed by Mark Lamos.
Yay! Yeah, I saw. That was an amazing production.
Yeah, yeah.
That was really.
Yeah,
But
he
neither
used
of
the artist Magritte as he used that style in terms of the scenic elements, and it was really very beautiful to look at. With Angela Bassett, she was.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But you two, this is your first time at Hartford Stage.
First time, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I can't wait for you, our audience, to meet this great cast. I'm going to look at our dates, because all I know is what we're doing in rehearsal down
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hall. Next week we move to the theater, but here are our dates. You really need to come see us. We start previews January 18th, and we run till February 11th.
I'm sorry.
What? January 18th. Breathe.
Yep,
Breathe.
yep,
There's
that's
time.
fine, that's right. Like in a state of drowning right now.
Mm.
I always say this, if you think about how much time we've rehearsed and how much time is ahead,
Mhm.
and how much we've accomplished.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's my soothing director voice.
Look,
Um,
look how relaxed I am.
You're very relaxed. There is no better way to see this play than with a subscription. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Please subscribe to Hartford Stage. We need you. We need you to fill those seats so that this extraordinary cast has the experience of sharing this with you. You're, in a sense, if the designers are the fourth cast member, you're the fifth. If we're not telling the story to you, then what are we doing? So we'd love you to subscribe. We'd love you to come see Simona's Search. More information at hartfordstage.org. Also, so some more interviews with our playwright, with these actors. And thank you for being part of Seen and Heard. And let us know what you think of this new format. I'm very excited that I'm in a room with people instead of in a Zoom square. So we'll see you at the theater. Thank you for joining us.
You're so
I
good.
just stopped.
Good.
It just seemed like we were.
Was
She
like,
said, no,
go
I'm getting in the
ahead,
boat, I'm
babe.
getting in the
I'm gonna
boat. I was like,
go.
woo!
You
It's so-
just